Hey developers, welcome back to .NET Ramana, your premium place to learn real-time .NET with clarity and simplicity. In today's video, we are diving into one of the most asked interview concept in ASP.NET Core, that is the repository pattern. Yes, the repository pattern. By the end of this video, you will understand what is exactly is a repository, why should we use it, where it is used in real-time applications, how to build it step by step in Visual Studio 2026, clean folder structure, generic and specific repositories, a working API example. Okay, let's get started. First, what is repository? What is a repository? The simplest definition I'm giving you, try to understand. A repository is a layer that handles all data access logic. All data access logic. Meaning your controllers or services don't directly talk to the database. Okay. Instead, they talk to a repository and the repositories talk to a DB context. Okay. We will see one real time example, real life example. Think of it's like a restaurant. You don't go to the kitchen, yes or no? You give an order to the waiter. Waiter communicates with the kitchen, yes or no? Similarly, controller, repository, database. So repository is here is what? Waiter of your application. Waiter of your application. Next, why should we use the repository patterns? Very good and very important interview questions. Great question it is. Why not just use the DB context directly? Yes or no? Directly controllers DB context we can use, right? So here is why repository pattern is extremely useful. Let's see that. So one, cleaner code. All data logic stays in one place, the repository layer. Okay, it is very clear code, right? Because all the code, all the data logic where it will stay in repository layer, it will be. Okay. Number two, reusability. So reusability means same get all methods, add, update, delete. These functions work for all entities, all entities. Number three, easy testing. You can mock repositories instead of hitting actual databases. Yes. Number four, loose coupling. Very important. Controllers don't know how data is fetched, only what is fetched. Okay. Number five, migration friendly. If tomorrow your DB changes from SQL server to PostgreSQL or MySQL, only repository layer changes. Controllers remain untouched because big projects controllers have thousands of controllers, right? Changing this is very difficult. If you use repository, that will be very useful. This is why all real-time entrepreneur applications use repositories. Okay. Now, in next part, we will see real-time examples. Okay. So, imagine an e-commerce website. Okay. So, products we have, orders we have, customers we have, payments we have, and reviews like that. Each one needs database operation. Yes or no? Add, update, delete, get list, get single like that. In if every controller writes its own queries, big mess. Yes or no? So companies creates a product repository, order repository, custom repository, and so on. This makes the project scalable, clean, and testable. Okay. Now we will see that creating the folder structure. Okay. Now we will see one real-time project, how we can create that and in Visual Studio. In your Visual Studio 2026 project, maintain one clean folder layout. We will see that. Okay. Let's quickly build a repository demo for one product entity. First, what we have to do is we need to select ASP.NET Core Web API and that I will give you that name as a repository demo repository demo I'm giving. Next, click on next. So I'm selecting .NET 10 only. Okay, create. So try to understand repositories. Every enterprise applications we will use this repository. Okay, now it is created. Now we will create that folders and code as well as. Okay, let's go for the creation of. Okay, first let's create the models. Okay, I'm creating the model folder. So what I do is right click. Okay, add new folder models. Okay, I created. I will create one class product.cs. What I do is I will create a class product.cs. So class, okay, product.cs. So one class is created. Now what I do is I will add some properties like ID, name, price. Okay, inside this I will add some properties ID, name, price. Now what I do is I will create one data folder. Okay, what I'm going to do, data folder, I'm going to create that. Very simple, like we are using one logic to show for you example this thing, just a data folder I created. Now what I do is I create DB context here because it is related to data, right? What I'm doing is I will use, okay, add class, okay, or if you go data, right? So what I do is ASP.NET Core PP class. What I do is db context db.cs. I'm using this. Okay. Now what I do is db context inherited. It should inherited from db context, right? So that we do that. What I'm doing is I'm writing some code. For time being, so I'm not writing manually. I'm already wrote it. That code I'm doing that. So it should inherited from where? Data context. Okay. So for this, what we need to do is we need to install entity framework. Okay. Entity framework. What I do is dependencies, manage new get package, entity framework, and SQL also we need to install entity framework. Because of that, entity framework core as well as SQL server. So next SQL server we need to install. Okay. So now we can use that using, let me show that, using entity framework. Okay, so I use that. Now you can able to see all the errors gone. Okay, now what we do is we create db connection. Okay, that no, we need to add a db connection in the program.cs. Okay, just let's go for the program.cs and add. Okay, let me add here. Okay, just I added this default connection. Use SQL server, the default connection, okay. Now what we need to do is connection string we need to use. Okay, just for a time being I'm adding one connection string. Okay, in the app setting dot json, in the app setting dot json. Okay, after this you can use connection string. Okay, use connection string. So if you have any connection string you can use this, or else you can use same thing. Okay, now we will create one generic repository. Generic repository. For that, I'm creating one folder, interfaces folder. I'm creating that. I'm creating. So what we do is add new folder. Okay, interfaces. Okay. Now what I do is irepository.cs I'm going to create that. Okay. So what it will be is right click, add slash, okay, irepository.cs. Here we will write so one generic method we are going to add this. Okay. So this is the generic method I added for update, okay, delete, add, okay, those things all get all the thing, everything I added, whatever we discussed this. If you able to observe that. So these things. So if someone asks in interview question, how can I create a repository generically? You can show this is code. They will impress like anything. They will impress like anything. This handles CRUD for entity for any entity. Okay. Now what we'll do is repository folder we already created, right? So for this implementation is required. Whatever interface, right? So what I'm doing is in where is that? Sorry. So repository folder one we will create. Okay, folder. What I do is repositories. Okay, rename repositories. One I created. What I do is I will add repository.cs. Okay, repository.cs. Add new folder repository dot. Sorry. It's my mistake. It's not the folder. Delete this. It is a class, right? We need to add. Okay, class. So repository.cs. Okay. Now what we need to do is we have to add this code. Okay. Whatever for that interface we are adding this. We are adding this. See. Okay. So where we inherited whatever interface we created, right? I repository here. So that we inherited here. So we created one constructor for this repository, dynamic repository, okay, dynamic or generic repository. So for that, whatever it has, right, those logics we implemented here. Okay. Now what we can do is interfaces anyhow we have, right? I will create for product specifics. Okay, I product repository. So right click, add class product repository.cs. I created that. So here we will add I repository interface we will inherited. Okay. So what I do is I repository inherited. I'm doing that. Okay. This is one inherited for product related. Okay. Now what I'm doing is in repositories I'm creating one class. Okay. So generic we created. So all this repository we created. After that we are creating product related. Okay, product related. Now class dot cs. Okay, okay. Now product related while we are creating. See product related. So I'm creating this. What happened? Okay, using entity framework code. Okay. See, this is I created whatever I repository product we created, right? This is the method get product above price. That method I created, that I am doing here implementation. Here repository we are contacting with the database. If you see, right, okay. We are contacting with the database. Now we need to register this DI. So we need to register in DI container, right? What I do is program.cs. I go there, okay, where I will go program.cs. So I will register this, okay, whether you can do after this or before this. So I'm doing that. Add scope, these things we previous video also we discussed. These are this dependency injection, how very important, and also we discussed that. One is repository, whatever we created, I product repository also we did. Okay, throughout the application it is common, right? So that's why I used it. Now we are going to create one product controller. Okay, product controller.cs. So let me show that controllers already it is there. So I'm creating one controller. Okay, empty controller I'm going to add. So now what I'm giving the name as, okay, product controller. Okay, product controller, I added that. So adding the code, I'm adding the code. If you guys have any issues understanding now, you can mention in the comment section. I do that. See, get all, create, okay, get the above, all the methods, whatever we write, right? We are calling that. So here, add async, sync, okay, get all the syncs, get product price above, whatever we created. From through controller, we will call those methods. So from controller, we will call that methods. Okay. Now, so and what's how you build a functional repository pattern in ASP.NET Core. Today we covered what a repository, why we use it, real-time example, clean architecture folder, step-by-step Visual Studio 2026, generic repositories we created, specific repository. So generic repository is what this one, I repository. See, this is the generic repository we created. Yes or no? So, and another one specific repository like iProduct repository is the specific repository that we created here. So that implementation is here. So these things we call through where from the controller, because the input will come from the controller. Controller will call to the repository. Repository will call to the database. Repository. See, whatever I created, I add a sync. I product repository. I product repository. So in this, what it is there? Add async. Add async. So if you go this method, right, you can understand that. Okay. See, repositories where it is there. This is the what method we have. This is the what method we have. See here you can see my product repository, whatever it is there. In that, see my product repository repo, this one. Okay, like that it is. We have to created one simple one. So API implementation we did. If you want episode or next episode on unit of work pattern repository plus service like clean architecture with a repository full source code template, tell me in the comment section. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe to .NET Ramana. See you in the next video. Thank you guys.